everybody, and welcome to episode 115 of The Best Games, period. The podcast where every week we get together and we talk about a game that might be considered one of the best games of all time, or might not. Depends on what game we're talking about. It might just be really good. Might just be, or might be okay. Might even be bad, but generally pretty good.
We cover a whole spectrum of games, basically.
Yeah. I'm your host, Jack Gardner, and with me is the indomitable, the impressive Naomi Lugo.
That's my WWE, intro right there. The indomitable, the indestructible.
Ooh,
Naomi.
I should have gone with indestructible. That would have been good too.
That's because I couldn't remember the second word you used, but it still works.
I used impressive.
Oh, impressive.
Yeah. This week we're going to be talking about Typing of the Dead: Overkill. And
I am so stoked. Yeah, I love this game.
You nominated it, so
I did.
You're going to be the one who really takes this and runs with it.
Spoiler alert, I like it.
Before we get into all of that, though, we have the customary introductory babble about games we've played or news we want to talk about and hold near and dear to our spooky little hearts this October. So, on that note, what do you got for us?
So, I've been obsessing over the Overwatch skins just because that's my favorite part of Overwatch is the Halloween skins. There are some pretty rad ones this year, with Wrecking Ball. He turns into an adorable little pumpkin and he's like a bat scarecrow kind of thing. It's cute. I like it when they go all out and make something well-rounded like that. And then there's the not so great ones. I'm okay with Bastion's new skin. He's got a tombstone on him and he's kind of got a
Bastion's
purple
skin is terrible.
Okay,
it's
we'll go with that.
It's basically a palette swap.
Yeah, but meanwhile, Moira's Banshee skin is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love it. Overwatch, you need to make them actually look like costumes. That's kind of the deal. I get with certain skins, they're not legendary skins. You can do recolors, that's fine. But Widowmaker's spider, you could have done more. Put little cute spider legs on her back or something.
That literally just looks like her base skin with more
it's
spider
still
webs
purple.
on it. Yeah.
That's Widowmaker's color. I get that. I don't know if that one's a legendary skin or not.
I hope not.
Yeah.
I would be disappointed if I got a legendary and that was the skin I got. But
yeah, that's lame.
I do have to say I like Anna's skin for Halloween quite a bit.
It's cute.
It's just such a grandma skin.
Yeah, and she throws out candy, right? And
Yeah.
people have been spamming people throwing candies at their defeated bodies, so that's great too.
She's like a little pirate who dressed up for Halloween, and she just wants to support her grandchildren. She wants to take them around trick-or-treating and stuff, It's really cute.
Yes, it is adorable. All for that. And then in Dragon Ball FighterZ, they have a new skin color, which is a little different, because in FighterZ, it's a fighter game, so they have a bunch of different color swaps or color palettes that you can play as to make it less confusing. So they went with the very, very Halloween colors of orange and purple and green. I love that color scheme. But then in the lobby, it's an overworld kind of thing, and they have little chibi characters that squeak when they walk, and they made little outfits for them. Beerus has a pumpkin head. Vegeta's he's a vampire. Goku is a blue little wolf, which is a nice little nod to Sonic Fox, who is indeed a furry and dresses up as a furry when he competes. Yup. And it's the cutest thing ever. I was totally squeeing over that. It was just so cute. Oh my god. So, yes. Halloween plus video games equals so much happiness.
For
so
sure.
Much.
For sure. And I am super happy this week because a certain trailer came out that I am really excited about. It's the Squadron 42 trailer, which I forced Naomi to watch before we started recording so that we could talk about it.
Yes.
First impressions of the trailer?
Oh my gosh, it looks so cool. So cool. So it has a bunch of, like, A-list, like, nerd actors. Like, just stuff that nerds are gonna be like, oh my god, that's blah from blah, yes!
Yeah.
And it looks so good.
Yeah, like, you got Mark Hamill, a.k.a. Luke Skywalker. You got Gillian Anderson, a.k.a. Scully from The X-Files. You got John Rhys-Davies, a.k.a. Sala from Indiana Jones, and also Gimli from Lord of the Rings. You got Andy Serkis, also from Lord of the Rings, as Gollum. You've got, like, Gary Oldman, who's Commissioner Gordon from the Batman movies, and also an Oscar-winning actor in his own right outside of that. You've got, like, all this star power that is just incredible, and it looks like it's actually being used really well. Like, the trailer that they put out kind of showcased each of these actors, like, having kind of like at least a little moment to emote. And it was just really phenomenal, and just showing off some different situations from the game. And I have been waiting for this game for a very long time, and it's just nice to see that it, A, still exists, and B, looks great. Because this game was originally announced as part of a Kickstarter back in 2012, and you might recognize that as being 6 years ago, and largely we've only seen, like, maybe one blip from this game every 2 years since then. I remember seeing the cast list a couple years ago, and, like, a very short cinematic with Mark Hamill in it. But other than that, this is the first time we've actually seen the game, I believe, like, for an extended period of time, and it also includes gameplay in it, like, from in-game, which is very impressive. So I am just kind of, like, breathless and excited, and I said on Twitter that I haven't been this excited for a sci-fi video game since the conclusion of the original Mass Effect series. So that should tell you a little bit about how I feel about it, because I love Mass Effect a lot. Naomi, I don't think you're very familiar with Star Citizen at all?
No.
Okay. So basically, this game was pitched as the single-player component of Star Citizen, which is a spaceflight MMO that was planned to come out in 2014. But the Kickstarter success was so massive that afterwards, Cloud Imperium Games launched, like, additional fundraising stuff. So, like, people could buy ships or different in-game items to support the ongoing development of the game, and also to get some cool stuff. And they have so far, and this is a number from last year, so I don't know what the current total is, raised well over $150 million to fund this game. Which is kind of why the projected release date of 2014 continued to be pushed back and back and back. And currently, you can actually go to robertspaceindustries.com and look at the development roadmap, so kind of like what's coming out in Star Citizen in the near future. And they have a lot of these moving parts that are being developed by multiple studios all at once, but they do have a cohesive plan to eventually get this finished game out there, which is really impressive. But with all of that, Squadron 42 has kind of fallen off of, I think, mainstream news radars, just because there wasn't a whole lot to go on. And now it has kind of resurfaced, and the excitement for it has reignited, and it just looks great. Go check out that trailer and get excited. I have currently backed Star Citizen. I enjoy going in every few months and just seeing kind of all the things that they have changed. It's grown from just being able to walk around a hangar bay with your ship in it and like being able to explore the insides of your ship to being a space station that you can walk around on, to being a solar system that you can fly through, and eventually they're gonna expand that to being multiple solar systems, and I think after that they have plans to do like a galaxy thing. So it's gonna be really cool, and I'm really excited about it.
Heck yeah. So I'll post the trailer for this, if you have not seen it, on our Twitter. So you can just see exactly what we're talking about and nerd out with us if you want.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-bum-bum.
Okay, so I'm going to be totally professional here and say I don't remember when we do our polls because it has been so long since I've been on my A game and actually run them, but I ran them this week.
Yay!
Woo! So our last game that we covered for episode 114 was Luigi's Mansion. So we asked you guys if you thought this was one of the best games, period. And on Twitter, 89% of you said yes. More Luigi, please. On Facebook, it was a different story. We saw it was actually a lot closer than I was expecting it to be. And I'm pulling up the results right now. So on Twitter, you guys said that yes, more Luigi. About 53% of you said that. 47% said no. Boo. Ha. See what I did there? Because King Boo.
Boo.
So yeah. So the majority of you guys, though, thought that Luigi's Mansion was one of the best games, period. Agreeing with me, of course, which makes you correct. Haha. And silence from Jack.
Just gonna let that sit. Just gonna let that sit. Alright, so congratulations, Luigi's Mansion, I guess. We were a split show, and you guys stepped in to help tip the needle in favor of Luigi's Mansion. So good job, all of you, and better luck next time, also all of you. For those of you who participated. Yeah. All right, so do you want to jump into Typing of the Dead? Overkill?
Heck yes. Overkill.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it to it.
So I have one point that'll just end this discussion right now and make you agree that this is one of the best games, period.
Uh-huh.
So I went on to the official page for Typing of the Dead because it is published by Sega. It was on Sega's website. And the tagline for this game is called, it says, "Guts will be spilled." Bam.
That's pretty good.
Mic
That
drop.
is pretty darn good. I appreciate whoever wrote that on the marketing team.
It sums up this game just so perfectly. And so before we jump in, what this game is it's pretty similar to what you might think. So it is kind of derived from House of the Dead. And this is actually a sequel because there was a Typing of the Dead original game, which I believe came out in like 1999 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it pretty much takes House of the Dead and just replaces the shooting mechanic with typing. So you type out these words, and each letter that you get equals a bullet into the zombie. And if you type it correctly, you run up bonuses and you beat up monsters, all that jazz. So, but that stayed in line with the story of House of the Dead. So Typing of the Dead Overkill came out a lot later in 2013, I believe, also under Sega's as a publisher. But it has its own unique story. And the way to describe this lovely story is probably like a C-movie and like Russ Meyer's style, so those vintage kind of exploitation films, like kind of what Quentin Tarantino strives to be, like with what's that one movie he does with the car? Death Oh my gosh. Brain's dead.
Death Proof?
Yes, that one, Death Proof. So it's kind of along that same vein, but it's just a lot cheesier, and the voice acting at times can be very cringy, but what's so great about it is it's entirely self-aware. It is just cheesy beyond cheesy, and as you can tell with the punnage, it rolls with it.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty good summation of Typing of the Dead Overkill. I do think we need to point out that there have been many House of the Dead games. It's a very popular arcade game that goes back to the 90s and has since just kind of run its own course in arcades. And there have been occasional adaptations to consoles, though they've been relatively infrequent. It's mostly an arcade thing. And so House of the Dead Overkill is the 5th game in the House of the Dead series. So
Okay.
The very first one came out in 1996. House of the Dead Overkill came out in 2009. I believe it originally came out for, I want to say, the Wii.
Yeah, I think I saw stuff for that. Yeah,
so it's not visually appealing. I'll say that. It is an adequately looking game. It then also got an extended edition for the PlayStation 3, but I think the developers at Headstrong Games / Modern Dream just kept the terrible graphics because it added
nostalgia.
Well, I don't even think nostalgia. I think it just adds to the low-grade charm of the game.
Yes.
Like, it's not great, but it looks good. It looks good enough for what it's supposed to be. And the story is complete nonsense, which is par for the course for House of the Dead games. I don't know if you've ever played them in arcades or not.
Oh, definitely.
But it's always just been complete garbage schlock, and an excuse to kill zombies. So that's not much different here, except that it just leans into the fact that it knows it's garbage and tries to make something fun out of that. And so it's kind of hard to point at this game and say that it's bad when it is so very aware that it is bad, and kind of uses that as a strength instead of a weakness.
Yeah. It's that B grade, C grade charm that I love. I think if it was taking itself really seriously, it wouldn't work as much, but since there's lines in the story that are just so cheesy and just dig all the way into it, it's a great combo for me.
So what exactly do you love about it so much? Because basically all that Typing of the Dead does is it replaces the shooting mechanic with typing, which doesn't seem like a fundamentally huge change. It's on its surface, I think, sounds strange, but when you actually get into the game, it's a fun mechanic. But what is that the main hook for you?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely played the House of the Dead games in arcades whenever I was in arcades. That was the game that I always wanted to hit up more than anything else, just because of all of that cheese and the bad voice acting and just the ridiculous gore and the absolutely ridiculous scenarios that these people are, finding themselves in. Because it's always a detective or a couple of detectives who find themselves in a zombie infested mansion or whatever. The plot really doesn't matter too much because you end up on a speedboat shooting down a giant eyeball monster or something, right?
Yeah.
It's just over the top and ridiculous. And what Typing of the Dead Overkill does is it takes that same ridiculousness, but it just kind of revamps it with a new story, I guess, that just tries to beat up a lot of pop culture and a lot of just different, facets of our culture. Like, I think it's the second level where you end up at a strip club and you just have to shoot the crap out of stripper zombies and other zombies, and it is just, it's like, why did we go there? Okay, I guess we're there. I don't know. I like that over the top cheese, especially when it comes to horror. That's the type of horror I like. I'm not super into, I guess, real horror.
You like it cut with some ice cubes. I get it.
I like pop horror. I like cheesy. I like, because horror movies are like some of the movies that take themselves just so damn seriously, right? Because they are trying so hard to get a specific reaction out of their audience, so they kind of have to, right? But when we turn that on its head, it just becomes something. It's like looking in the mirror, like, why are they so scary to us? And then it still keeps that dissonance to it that just, it's easy to make something so horrible that it's funny for some reason. Like we were talking I think it was last show about the gore anime I was watching, and it was trying so hard, and then it just ended up being absolutely ridiculous and almost hilarious. So, and I'm not sure how we crossed that line, but it's just something that I really appreciate when it's done well.
Can I just ask you a question out of curiosity?
Yes.
So how do you feel about horror in movies, like Psycho, like maybe classic horror like Psycho or The Shining, or even like a more modern horror movie like Get Out? Like, are those
all of those movies I think are genuinely horrifying. I think those are way more horrifying than like Saw, I guess.
Okay.
But Saw is more closely aligned to that cheesy horror that I'm talking about, I guess.
Okay, so like those are movies that genuinely disturb you and like freak you out?
Yes. So I guess I'm more freaked out by like thriller horror than like just straight up horror, I guess.
Okay, so I guess I'm trying to figure out what your line is for like too much to the point where you aren't enjoying it anymore.
Yeah.
Like I guess Get Out is kind of the example I was thinking of when you were.
Yeah.
Is that too much for you?
No, I adored Get Out.
So like what's your horror line where you're just no longer enjoying something?
That's tough.
I guess it's, for me, I don't enjoy the Saw movies at all. Like,
yeah, I think they're stupid.
Well, I mean, like the stuff that kind of gets into like gratuitous gore, and I mean that's not even the right word, because I do enjoy gratuitous gore, but stuff that gets into just torture and mutilation for no reason.
Yeah, especially when it's like on this paper thin like logic, like, I need you guys to enjoy your lives because I have cancer. Like, what? And why do some of these people deserve to be tortured? Like, I don't know. I guess I like horror when it takes apart kind of the logic that as a society we have deemed is correct, if that makes any sense, and it kind of turns that on its head. I don't know. Does that make sense at all?
No, that makes sense, I think.
Okay. Instead of just like, oh, this is like a really scary situation. Oh my god, what will they do? Oh no, they got murdered. Like, okay, we all knew that was gonna happen. But like, meanwhile, not Ash vs. Evil Dead, Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, those are absolutely amazing. But Evil Dead, the first one, was like almost trying to be a legit horror movie, but then it realized how cheesy it was and it became a masterpiece, you know? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. It's a tough line because it's examining a key part of what makes us human, and that's what we fear and what scares us, you know?
Yeah. So, I guess part of what I was thinking about while I was playing through Typing of the Dead Overkill was, like, what makes this not scary, whereas other things that have like, similar levels of blood, guts, gore, etc., and, like, other subject matters and contexts, freaky. Like, this game does cross lines, but it doesn't do it in a scary way. It's often more just in a, well, that was gross kind of way.
Yeah, and I think it probably stems from the ridiculousness of you're killing zombies with words, especially if you have the DLC packs and you can choose different types of words you want. Like, you could be typing unicorns at a zombie and that'll kill them. Like, I think that's part of what makes it so great, and I highly recommend getting Typing of the Dead Overkill, like the full pack, to just be able to do all those things. Or there's one where you can type like Shakespeare language at them, and it takes you all the way out of the situation you're in. And I guess that's what makes it not scary, is you're typing at them. And then, of course, like, the characters that you play as are ridiculous, you know? Like, there's, of course, 2 detectives, but they are just such mockeries of everything that we've seen in popular culture. Like, they say all of the cliche and cheesy lines, and then you have, like, the 2 strippers, and one of them is just, like, a complete ditz, right? And then the other one's just this badass for being badass. Like, the characters that are established are just so lame. You, like, still like them, but you're not totally invested in them, where if they die, like, it's gonna be gut-wrenching. Like, no, it's just gonna be another part of the story, I guess.
No, that does make sense. I do want to give this game props to having one of the single most disturbing scenes in a video game I think I've ever experienced, near the end of the game, which I would normally call the climax, but I'm gonna purposely avoid using that word in this context, because, geez Louise, was that just not something I was prepared for.
Yeah. This game definitely does that a lot.
I didn't particularly enjoy a lot of the writing at the beginning and in the middle of the game, but I feel like this game definitely goes out on a really strong note and, like, has some really good banter at the end. Like, there's, like, a 5-minute long discussion about the irony of a character not using expletives in a situation where they would actually apply for the very first time in the entire runtime of the game. And it's glorious, and I really appreciated it. And yeah, so I guess I'm trying to figure out if I am, because, like, I'm not a prude, but I feel kind of like a buzzkill, because there were certain things in this game that rubbed me the wrong way, and I'm not
like,
sure,
took it too far,
or like, were just kind of mean-spirited.
Yeah, there's definitely part, like fat jokes, and, like, there's a part where someone in a wheelchair turns into a monster, and then they make quips, like, yeah, that stuff.
Yeah, a lot of ableist
not so great
quips. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, definitely not condoning that kind of stuff. And I totally agree that it does cross that line a bunch of times.
Well, and so like, the other thing is how it treats the female characters in this game, is just really cruel. Yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail, but, like, I also understand that that sort of treatment is kind of par for the course in grindhouse films. Like, that's just kind of the style that they were going for. So I'm not sure... I guess I'm unsure about how to feel about that, because on the one hand, I don't like it, but I also understand why it's there.
Yeah.
So, at what point do we, like, stop cutting slack for a stylistic choice that we just don't agree with?
Yeah, and grindhouse itself is super exploitative, right? Like, it's all about the big boobs and the, I mean, in Planet Terror, if I'm remembering the Robert Rodriguez film, Rose McGowan is a stripper and she loses her leg, and so to replace her leg, she puts a machine gun on. Like, it's pushing that envelope, and it's stupid.
But that's great, and I don't have a problem with that. I just mean, like, spoiler alert if you really care about the narrative of House of the Dead games, but both the female characters die in horrible ways. And, well, I guess we don't really know if Varla Guns dies, to be 100% fair, but she does end the game as a brain in a jar, so, I mean, yeah. And... I just don't, I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah. And that's totally a fair point.
Usually I have pretty, like, concrete feelings about things, and, like, am able to articulate why. In this case, for whatever reason, I have a hard time pinning it down.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. It's because this game is so cheesy and self-aware. It's hard to define that line and say, oh, they did this because they wanted to point that out, or they're just being assholes. You could debate it either way, so it's really hard to have just a concrete opinion objectively about it. Like, this game is definitely, like, a cult hit, and it's a cult hit for a reason. Like, it's not for everyone. Like, people who don't like that cheese, who are not going to get into it, they're just not going to, and that's totally fine, you know?
If you have a low tolerance for expletives and harsh language, this is definitely not the game for you, because I'm pretty sure there's, like, an F-bomb dropped, I don't know, probably, like, at least every 30 seconds. Does that sound about right? As an average rate?
Yeah, and it was great. I sent Jack this reaction video, which is like the only reaction video I've ever condoned. But it's senior citizens playing this game with a modifier on the text where it was just all, I guess you would call them mature words. Like, oh god, I don't even know which example to go with. But we can use our imaginations here.
Yeah, you don't have to go with an example on a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah, exactly. So we won't go there. But these senior citizens were typing out these naughty, naughty words. And some of them were just like, oh dear, like what? I don't even know what that word means, but I know it's bad, And it like some of them, even within that group of like 8 or so, some of them adored it. They thought it was funny and hilarious. And some of them were just like, no. I don't understand why they would make this, that kind of stuff. So even in that small group, we saw such a different reaction there. And again, I'll post that on Twitter because it's pretty hilarious to watch.
Oh, where else do we go with this discussion?
Well, I do have a kind of a side note. When I was doing research for this game, I got sucked down the Wikipedia hole, as one will do, and I found out that there is a console called the Sega Naomi.
What?
Yeah, and
get right out of town.
I know.
I've never heard of this.
It's pretty obscure. It came out in like 1998, and it's I can't remember what console it kind of mimics, but it has like extra memory in it, and it's used in arcades as well as home. What? And there's actually a pretty impressive list on there, like Crazy Taxi was on there. But what Naomi stands for is the New Arcade Operation Machine Idea, because that just rolls off the tongue.
Okay.
So that adds points in this game's corner for getting me to that Wikipedia page for some reason.
So it was both a home console and an arcade machine?
I believe so.
That's a crazy idea. That's an idea a crazy person came up with.
It's very fitting for me, isn't it?
All right.
But I guess one point that we kind of glossed over that's kind of a big part of this is that this game genuinely helps with your typing skill.
Oh, yeah. That's
like,
true.
It genuinely
totally ignored
does.
the typing aspect of this.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, I'll read the contrarian corners later, but basically the contrarians, the reason they were mad is because they were looking for a game that would help them with their typing skills, and they're like, I can't show this to my kids. It's funny. But the game has different difficulty levels depending on your typing skill. And I think it makes you beat those levels before you can progress. I think there's only like 3 or 4.
Well, you can start out at like, easy, medium, hard, but you can't do like the hardest difficulty without beating the game first.
Yeah. So easy is pretty easy, but it's still challenging. Like if you don't have a solid typing skill background, it really forces you to stop looking at the keyboard because zombies will pop up on screen, of course, and you have to type the words out. That's the base of the game, but then you'll just start seeing more and more zombies, and then as the difficulty goes up, like you have to start typing in capitals and what is that word? It's not exclamations.
Punctuation.
Punctuations. Thank you. So it gets really challenging really quick, and it was funny. One of the older women in the video I was just talking about, she was actually a pretty good typist, and she was getting very far in the game, but she was the one who like hated it the most. But at the end, she said that this game would definitely help out with your typing skills, which was just hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I definitely had to get into a groove, even though like my day-to-day job is typing things. So I was able to finish the game without much difficulty on the normal difficulty. I did see a couple game over screens. And I think
you are dead.
I think at higher difficulties that there are bigger, I guess, flaws in the formula that become apparent. Like, for example, it's almost impossible to tell how to prioritize different targets as they come at you. Like, sometimes a group of like 4 zombies is coming at you and you have no idea which one is going to reach you first. And if you go by like how people normally read English, left to right, well, you might not actually prioritize the right zombie. And I couldn't figure out if there was a pattern to that at all, even by the time I had finished the game. So often, like, you just take damage because you started typing the wrong word, and you have to finish typing that word or phrase before you can move on to the next one, and it was just kind of a frustrating experience when you got it wrong like that, because it felt arbitrary as opposed to the game being fair.
Yeah, and actually teaching you typing skills.
Right. I mean, like, I felt like I was, like, improving my typing, but I felt like I was being unfairly punished for just choosing the wrong word, which didn't feel fair a lot of the time. But for the most part, that wasn't a huge deal, and even if you do die, all that happens is that the number of points you get is halved. So it only really matters if you're shooting for that high score. Otherwise, it's just whatever. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Which is kind of nice, because then you can just start the game again, and just keep going with your flow, which is a huge part of it, like you said. But yeah, I'll definitely agree with that. I remember being really frustrated at that point because I am not the greatest typer. I'm okay.
I believe the term is typist.
Typer. Yes, typist. So this game was challenging for me, and it did actually really help my skill a lot. But yeah, I definitely remember being frustrated. Like, what could I have done? Like, that's just how we do things. That's how my brain works. Like, So I will agree with that point.
I did wonder when I finished the game why more games don't have this type of mechanic. Because it does seem very much linked to either educational games from the late 90s or it linked to Typing of the Dead, which was originally for the Dreamcast in 99. And I believe that got a Japanese exclusive sequel that never made it to the States. And then this game, and that's about it. Like, I feel like there might be a couple indie games out there that make use of typing as mechanic, but otherwise...
Like, it's in Frog Fractions, right?
Yeah, but that's like that doesn't count. Frog Fractions is in its own little world.
Yeah, I mean, after playing this game, I went on a search for other games like it, and I was really frustrated. I was like, this is like or at least it seems like such an easy way to like add life to other games, you know, like you could do a story, like, I don't know, like you can just add that mechanic to I don't know what I'm saying. I guess it just seems like a really simple way to create a game. No, that's not what I'm trying to say either. I don't know.
It does feel like it only could exist in a form where you're kind of on rails already, which does limit that. But at the same time, then I think about, well, how could developers get around that? You know, like what sorts of interesting things could someone do with that basic mechanic? And I feel like that hasn't really been explored a whole lot. For example, just like off the top of my head, what if someone basically made like modded Dark Souls to have like make it on rails, and then fighting different monsters is like Typing of the Dead.
I would play the hell out of that.
You know, have some light RPG elements over it, like what weapons you have equipped. Maybe that changes like the dictionaries you use. Maybe upgrading your weapons shortens the words you have to type out or the phrases. Like, there are different ideas you could do to make this even more interesting and come alive a little bit more. And it's strange that hasn't become more widespread. Like, think of how much people type now on computers, on their phones, whatever. Like, I feel like a lot of people... It opens the accessibility to a lot of people who might not otherwise be able to play traditional video games. Like that Elders React video you linked and were mentioning earlier. None of those people would play first-person shooters. Like, they even talk about how they would never play games like this, but because they can type, they actually all make it through the game, like, or at least one level of the game. And imagine having that for something like a Dark Souls, or, you know, games that are known to be less inviting for new players, and having that universally known skill being kind of the center point that helps get you through that, I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, and especially on mobile, like you could have mobile, you know, adaptations of a bunch of different properties, but they're typing on your phone. Like, there's just a lot of potential there that hasn't been as explored as I would like it to be.
Yeah, so basically what we're saying is we want our...
Dark Souls.
Well, we
typed.
We want one of our primary skills to become the main mechanic in video games so that we can be really good at them.
Yeah, because you can game and learn. Yay!
Yeah, and we'll already be good at typing because we write a lot.
Yes. Like, I'm fast at typing once I get into the flow, but if I ever stop to think about it, I just mess myself up. Which I know is, like, true about a lot of different things, but I think about it a lot, I guess.
I mean, I think a lot about typing is muscle memory.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, whenever I saw an unfamiliar word, it was interesting how I would suddenly have to think about how you spell that and how you, like, go about typing that on a keyboard. Whereas if I see a word I've spelt out, like, dozens of times before, then it's not that big of a deal. Like, I can just type it without thinking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And so having, like, this expanded range of dictionaries and stuff is really helpful and interesting. I would also like to point out that on PC with Typing of the Dead, there are a number of mods that you can download for additional dictionaries. One of the most popular of which on Steam is the Seinfeld Dictionary, where you type out popular phrases and words from the 90s sitcom Seinfeld.
If there were sound effects with that too, that would be just golden. Yeah, one more point I wanted to bring up was the actual development of the game. So Sega was the publisher because, you know, they own House of the Dead and all that, but this game in particular was actually developed by a small UK studio called Modern Dream. And this game almost didn't come out because, like, I don't know exactly where, but in the middle of the game, the studio was shuttering. So instead of just dropping the game, saying that it'll never be published and all that, the team actually decided to finish the game. Even after the studio was liquidated, they lost their computers, they lost their space and everything like that. And actually for a couple of weeks, they were working on the game in one of the team members' apartments. But Sega was very nice to them and offered them space after that. But, and this is a quote from a Gamasutra article, one of the developers, when they were working on the game, said, "No matter what, I'm about getting the game out." So I think that just adds another element to what makes this game kind of special. So the game did release, obviously, and they had a time frame of about 6 weeks, which is kind of insane. And instead of chancing it, or I guess no, actually they chanced it a lot, and released the game on Steam without any, what is the word I am thinking of? Any marketing, really. It just released on Steam as a part of the Steam October sale because it, you know, it just makes sense with the theme of Halloween, obviously. So the game either could have been a really big flop or not, and it ended up being a big success because it kind of came out of nowhere and it gained this cult following, and a bunch of people just kind of spread it around word of mouth because here is a technically a Sega game that came out of nowhere and was on sale on Steam, and you can just play it right then when it came out. So I just think that adds to the mystique and the lore behind the game and why people gravitate towards it so much, is because it was a passion project that kind of was a dying phoenix, if you will.
All right, I will. So do you think this is one of the best games, period?
Yes, I do. It is dorky. It uses a bizarre mechanic. It's genuinely enjoyable. It does make your typing skills better, which is, I mean, that's the objective of the game, I guess, at least a part of it. There are definitely problems with the story, like we pointed out, but I don't think it detracts enough from it, and I want to be very careful saying that because I don't agree with, like you said, how they treated female characters and all of that. I don't agree with that, but I do think that it was mirroring the genre that it was inspired by, so it doesn't detract enough for me to make it not a great game. So yeah, I do think it is one of the best games.
All right. I think that I am obligated to say that this is not one of the best games, period. I think it has a lot of potential. I love the mechanics. I loved playing the game. It was a fun game to play. I think the best way to sum up this game is that it spits in the face of God. Like it is visually displeasing. It is an ugly game. It is crass and crude, and it knows that, and it revels in it. And I think that is, its main strength. Even like,
oh yeah,
like it's not by any means a bad game, but I also think that like, the same way I wouldn't hold up Death Proof as being one of the best movies or films of all time. It's not trying to be, and that's fine. Like I think this game succeeds exactly at what it's trying to be and do. And what that is definitely not one of the best games of all time. Definitely doing some of the more interesting things mechanic-wise that we've seen from, I guess you could call it, this genre in a long time. The typing
the
genre.
Typing down genre.
Yeah. But I like, and there's a lot of potential in that gameplay mechanic. There's a lot of, I think even a lot of potential in that so bad it's good, low grade movie grindhouse scene. I just don't think that this game necessarily delivers the perfect embodiment of that. It does achieve its goals, but again, its goals are not to be one of the best games of all time, and I don't think it succeeds at hitting that high level of achievement to be considered that,
Yeah, definitely.
Like I feel like maybe better contenders for that might be games like Deadly Premonition, or another game that we talked about on this show a while ago, Ill Bleed is another one of those games that is just so weird that it might transcend being one of the best games of all time. And I think that this game isn't going off the rails weird. This is specifically gunning for a very specific feel and set of content that it knows isn't going to be the best, but is at the very least going to find its niche, and I think it definitely did that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my closing thoughts, I suppose.
Yeah, and of course this is a perfect example of how subjective best games can be, right? Because we have totally different ways of defining our games, and that's just what makes this show so interesting, if I do say so myself.
Toot toot.
So I guess now is the time for Contrarian Corner, which hopefully we got in the right order this time. I don't remember anymore. So this comment is from eBinary, and it was written in 2013, the year that this game came out. And they said, I was a huge fan of the original Typing of the Dead. Typing of the Dead, the original, is, in my honest opinion, the best way to become a fast typist without looking at your hands, because you can't win and look at your hands. I bought Overkill on release day. Despite its M rating, assuming that the rating referred to the gore and scariness, nope. M in this case refers to the most F-bombs per sentence of any game I have ever played. There is no setting to alleviate the constant barrage of F-bombery. There are single sentences with 3 or 4 curses. It's really just a lack of imagination. However, it begs another question. Who is this game for? In today's typing-oriented world, how many people are still trying to learn to type by the time they're old enough for M-rated games? I bought the game in hopes of replacing my ragged old copy of the original that my 2 kids, 10 and 12, are using. Nope, no way can I let them play this. I can't trade an increase in words per minute for an increases in curses per minute. The typing itself doesn't include any swearing, though it does have some suspect phrases like gimp suit and I hate old people. Really? It's a real shame because it seems like the gameplay is all there, a solid on-rails shooter driven by typing. Had they offered an option to decursify the game, I'd probably be rating it 8 or 9. Haven't finished it yet, and I'm not sure I will. So yeah, they bring up some pretty fair points. Like, there are definitely a lot of F-bombs. That's just fact.
Just because this game has typing in it, like a 90s educational game, do not confuse it for a 90s educational game.
No.
Definitely not for kids. 100% not for kids. Don't let your kids play it. I don't know how much more clear we can be on that subject. One of the villains literally walks into his mother's vagina, so yeah.
Indeed. Yes.
Don't let your kids play this game. But
if you're charmed by ridiculousness, definitely play this game.
If you're an adult, go for it. On that note, we'll probably be running a poll on this one. Since we again did have a very divided opinion on the game. You can participate in those polls over on Twitter at bestgamesperiod, or over on Facebook, facebook.com/bestgamesperiod. We post this show every Monday over on community.extra-life.org, where we also post a bunch of really awesome things about gaming in general. So head over there and check out that website. If you've never heard of Extra Life before, it's an amazing charity that helps sick and injured kids all across the United States and Canada. If you want to learn more about that, you can head over to extra-life.org, and there will definitely be some FAQs that answer some of your most pressing and common questions. It's a part of Children's Miracle Network hospitals, and when you sign up, you can actually choose which hospital you want to support, and 100% of everything you raise goes directly to that hospital to help sick and injured kids. And the main fundraising day is coming up. This year it's on November 3rd. And people all across both the United States and Canada are going to be getting together to play games of all kinds. The video game variety, the tabletop gaming variety, the outside gaming variety, really all the games. People will be getting together with their friends, family, even strangers, to play these games and raise money for a great cause. So, again, everyone check out Extra Life. And you can find out more over on extra-life.org. As for the podcast, you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, pretty much all the places where you might find a podcast. We are there. I think with the major exception these days being Spotify. But, what are you going to do? So check us out. We're on podcasting apps. You can Google us. We're all over the place. Leave us comments, leave us likes, leave us all the ratings, the reviews.
Give us the social approval.
Yeah.
We feed on it.
Yeah, we don't really advertise this show at all, so tell your friends, get more people listening, because we always appreciate all of you that do tune in and listen, and there is a growing number of you that have stuck with us over the years, and we really appreciate it. So you guys all keep being awesome.
Yes, but you're already awesome, so that shouldn't be hard for you guys, right?
Do you have anything you want to add, Naomi?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. We also have an Instagram at bestgamesperiod on Instagram, right?
Yes.
All right. So all of that being said, we'll see you next time on the Flippity Dippity.